Kenny Hum, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that's awesome. Do you want to give us a bit of an introduction into who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. So I've been in the restaurant industry for over 30 years. Started at the bottom, pretty much have worked in every front of the house and back of the house position that is available out there, and kind of work my way up the ranks. The great thing about the restaurant industry or the hospitality industry is that it's education blind, it's gender blind, it's all about hard work and getting results and really, developing others. So over the years, I've been fortunate enough to work with some bigger brands, some smaller brands, but over the course of the years, it's really about adding the experiences and the knowledge and the learning into your bucket to really help you grow as a leader and understand, how to really inject your passion for what you do in this crazy business to really help others, achieve their dreams and really learn and grow themselves to really become better individuals, not just hospitality people, but just great human beings. So that's my passion. I love what I do. I've been doing it for a while, and I hope to be doing it for a long time here to come in the future.
That's awesome. And I suppose when you think about, like, say, passion, and I love how you mentioned passion like multiple times, when you look to like surround yourself with, great, competent people, like, where does passion fall on the sort of hierarchy of sort of like needs to like have them work for you?
Yeah, I believe in really surrounding myself with individuals that are different. You don't want to be partnered with a bunch of yous, because then you're not. I don't want to say you're not challenged, but I think it's really important to have a real diverse group of individuals and partners on your team that will help elevate each other's performance and perspective on leadership and how to get the most out of our team.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, like, I've heard that from a couple of people that have been on the podcast here. When you think about, like, say, diverse individuals, diverse personalities, diverse backgrounds, how do you like scope those into, like, do you have a process for scoping those into your sort of like interview and pipeline, or is it just like it comes naturally to the business itself?
No, I think, I think the interview process is really the starting point of any individual's life cycle within any organization. So yeah. I think that's where you have the best opportunity to really understand who the individual is, what their strengths and opportunities are, and during that exploratory or interview session, if you will, that's I think anybody's best opportunity to really dig into and understand who they are as an individual, where their passions lie, what direction they want to go, and how you can help them as a partner to elevate their game, if you will.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, it's funny because actually separate to that, but I spoke a lot with somebody recently about intention and like viewing your employees with intention, and how like, especially post-COVID, that there's a greater onus on sort of like leadership to focus and be intentional about how they care about employees as well. And how has, say, like in your organization, I said organization, it's like how in your company, like, have you guys like changed processes or evolved processes? Do you always feel like you were very employee centric before, or like how do you think like that has a shift occurred for you?
So that's a great question. I think COVID and post-COVID has really brought on, different challenges for different organizations. We always believe that we're people first. I mean, you hear that across multiple companies, right?
Multiple industries.
Yeah, I make the joke that every company thinks that they have a great culture, right? What, you're not going to go out and try to promote your business and say, well, our culture is not very good. No, you're going to definitely promote that, we have the best, we're the best, we take care of our team. What I've learned over the years is that a individual culture is really only as good as it relates to you, the individual, and your core values as an individual and as a professional. So
yeah.
So that's, kind of going back to the start, to the interview process, that's where you really have an opportunity to understand and who this individual is, do their values and beliefs align with your brand and your organization. So fast forward to, post-COVID and your question about how we handle it and how intentionally we are with our people. I think you hear a lot about the generation and the type of employee or team member that's out there now. And our focus is really not on who the individual is. Our focus is on, again, what can we control? And we can control our leadership style and how we approach our team members and how we treat our team respectively. And I think the biggest change or the biggest difference in how we go about that is, it just takes more time. As leaders, we really promote spending a lot more time with every respective level, whether it's a management team member, whether it's a cashier or a cook, it's a lot different. Before it was, hey, let's have a quick pre-shift or a 5-minute powwow before the shift. Yeah. Now it's, hey, Alex, how are you doing today? I know that, your family member was sick or whatever the case may be. So I think it's really the biggest change is really becoming intimately knowledgeable with each of your team members at all levels and spending the time to show them that you care. Because, in today's day, the jobs are more playful and they're not, the kids of today are not shy about jumping ship if they don't feel good about where they're at. And that's why I say it's really more of a time commitment. You have to be intentional about your time. It's about planning and really showing everybody that you care about them as an individual, not just as a team member number.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And it sounds like, you really like taking on like a new phase of like communication as well. Like it's like that communicating values and communicating that you care, like from a leadership role all the way down to, the entry level hourly worker that you have. Like when you think about communication and then like in general in hospitality, what you've seen, and then like what you guys are doing, it sounds to me that like you've really kind of evolved the culture to really lean into communication. I feel like I hear this from a lot of your peers. I think people who are like sort of like north of 10 locations, like it's got to be like this very intentional communication, or it's just going to stymie that sort of like growth that you've planned, for example.
Right. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that we've done over the past year is to elevate our, communication level from the executive team all the way down to the front line. Is we introduced what we call the weekly catch. We're seafood, so it's called the weekly catch.
Love that.
And, in that we really download to all levels. It's not just the management team. It goes on to the communication board at the front level, where all front of the house and back of the house team members can see it, read about it, and understand what's happening. But going back to culture and being what we feel is a people first organization is we always celebrate first, whether it's a GM call, whether it's a weekly catch. The first thing that's on there is about recognition and celebration. So
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a great food safety and sanitation score, or somebody really killed it on the period scorecard. We're finding and recognizing top performances. We don't recognize just to recognize, but it's about showing the teams that, hey, we recognize and appreciate what you're doing every day to help us make successful, to help the brand be successful every day and win. We talk about winning a lot, and so that's definitely something that's changed. It's not just quote unquote informational. It's hey, we want to make sure that that we're proud of you and we appreciate you every day.
Which is awesome, because it sounds like the employee experience is like really like cutting edge, or like it sounds like you're really trying to like do as much as you can. I mean, information is power, and if you're able to like supply the information, you're supplying the power, which is supplying the winning. And I guess like that translates into a great guest experience, because I mean, how many locations are you guys now? You're like what, 14, 15 or something? Or
yeah.
Am I underestimating the number?
Yeah, no, we're at about 16 units. Yeah.
So like to scale that level, I mean, it's like you've got like the employee experience kind of like down. Like it's in like it's never static, but you're like, okay, we're in a great place with that, which bleeds into then like your guest experience. And I guess like, cause you're like, the way I'm just piecing together all the bits here, it's like, you're very intentional about how you communicate. You're very intentional about the people that you hire. And so I guess like, what's your take on how that translates into like a great guest experience?
So we believe that it starts with the training. We've spent a lot of time on our learning and development platform and really trying to simplify. In 2023, we spent a lot of time simplifying, and that can be a myriad of components to our business, whether it be menu development, whether it be marketing and guest acquisition, or like we talked about, it's training and development. So I think in order for us to win and execute, you have to provide all the tools and knowledge, right, for your teams, so that they're prepared to deliver the type of experience that we want. And I would say the biggest component outside of preparation is helping the managers and team members understand all the components that we want to try to hit throughout each guest experience, every shift, every day. So, philosophically, we believe that it's about having great food, giving great guest service in a fun and upbeat, food safe environment. And if we can hit those three components with every guest, every shift, we know that we're going to win. We know it may be one guest at a time, it may be a family of 4 at a time, it may be a group of 10, but we know that we will win. And so it's really coupling the component of the technical piece, and then also peppering it in with the social platforms, the loyalty program. Our loyalty program is something that we're really trying to educate our team members on, to help from a guest acquisition perspective. We believe in understanding analytics, and at the end of this past year, we really understood better our guest behaviors and how that's translated into increased frequency. Right? It's a frequency play. It's a stealing of market share, and prior to 2023, we found out our guests were coming to us about 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
We partnered with a company called Thanks,
Oh,
and with them, and some of the different initiatives that we've implemented this past year, now our guests are coming to us almost 2 times a month. So that's easy math. And we've been fortunate enough to not have to take a menu price increase this past year. Yeah. We kept pricing flat, but we're at this point now we've started seeing positive traffic counts in a climate that's very challenging. So, I think the what we do from a guest experience perspective is just really focus on those 3 buckets: execute great food. From a guest service perspective, we're really intentional on focusing on continued service. Although we're in a fast casual environment, we have documented training materials that talk about, outside of the food delivery, it's not, okay, enjoy your meal and we'll see you later. It's about, hey, let's focus on a 1 to 2 minute check back. Make sure they're highly satisfied with the product that they chose. Again, come back a few minutes later, then it's about pre-busing. So we're building in multiple opportunities, multiple touch point opportunities that we can communicate with the guest, ensure their satisfaction, but also talk about the loyalty program or one of our current LTOs that that we implemented starting last year. So now we have 4 quarterly LTOs that we promote, and it gives our guests another reason to come back to us and be excited to try something new.
Okay, awesome. And just I had to quickly Google what's LTO, limited time offer. So in case anybody's listening, that's what that is. I'm here to learn and guide, not to know.
Always learning.
It's interesting that you mentioned data and analytics helping inform the performance and future behavior of the business. And I'd love to learn more there, because I feel like actionable data is now a big thing in restaurants. I think, like, I had a guy on about 6 months ago who is like a kind of LinkedIn author, writer, guy called Carl Osborne.
Okay.
Osborne rather. And that's what he does, is basically like the analytics to the nth degree. Like, how do you like turn everything within the store into like a decimal? And it was fascinating. And obviously I was a bit out of my element. But what I will say is, what I find fascinating is that like you were able to take the data that you were seeing and turn that from people who come 3-4 times a year, was it you were saying, and now to twice a month. Correct. So you're you're 3xing the visits of one person, which is like unbelievable, just from the insights from the data alone. And so my question to you is, like, how is that transition to moving from like your gut or like the anecdotal evidence that you were like witnessing in the store to saying, here are hard numbers, here are areas for us to improve, and let's measure this and see methodically that it has had a lift? Like, was that a culture change for you? Was that a culture change to the organization?
I wouldn't say it's a culture shift. I really think from a tech perspective and from an analytics perspective, it really depends on your business and what your, I would say, focuses are and what your biggest opportunities are from a business perspective. So, for example, I think most companies are using tech to understand. We talk about forecasting a lot, right? Forecasting and planning is what we believe is one of the most important components to setting up your game plan or your playbook. From there, you can go up and down and sideways all you want with different programs, and everybody's tech stack is different, right? You can go a mile high or a mile wide, but it's really only as good as it's going to assist you in what your main focuses and your main goals are. So outside of a planning perspective, for us, it's how do we execute better so that our guest experience is as close to 100% execution as possible, right? Yeah. So I'm talking to a guy who what his business focuses on is about timing. So his analytics are really focused on, hey, how much time does it take for you to prepare a order, and during the rush, how does that change? So, so it turns into communication with your guests, whether it's a delivery order, whether it's a takeout order. The goal is that when you complete an order, your guest coming to pick up takeout or your delivery driver shows up right when it's done, right? Yeah. So that is one example of what we call a quality component to our business. The less amount of time the food sits in the window for pickup, the better the guest experience is going to be when they get it to their house, or if it's a dine-in guest. So to me, there's value in that, because it's going to impact all of your guests, depending, regardless of what outlet they choose to dine with you, whether it's dine-in, takeout, or delivery.
It is amazing that you were able to take the data, like synthesize it, and it has a tangible benefit on your guest experience.
100%.
Tangible impact on your business. And I think people are listening to this will be like, yes, okay, cool. If they were like on the fence about how to do it, like, or thinking about like the actual, because I think like you hear something like data as a sort of kind of abstract kind of like thing, especially in hospitality, but being able to see outcomes that are like, we 2x per month now versus 4x per year, it's like, oh, wow. And then that is revenue. That's like money right there. And you're like in the business of revenue. Do you know what Absolutely. I mean? You're the business of revenue, you're the business of margin, and you're having that tangible impact. So like, it's exciting for me to hear you say that, in the sense that like, it's like, okay, wow, like you're able to take on like a new way of analyzing your business and seeing the results in it. That should be like so helpful for people listening to this. Like,
Absolutely. Here's a quick example of how tech did not work for a specific company. I was traveling over the last couple of days and popped into this restaurant, and they were very busy, definitely understaffed. I don't know if they were intentionally, if that was their staffing level, but they were understaffed. Yeah. And so they had 2 kiosks in front of their cashier, one on each side. Nobody was working, the cashier. There was no greet. There was nothing. There was a sign that said, "Hey, order on the kiosk for faster service." So I said, "Okay, nobody's coming." I
wonder what restaurant this. I have an idea where you were.
Oh yeah. So I said, "Okay, I'm not usually a kiosk orderer per se, but hey, they said it's going to be faster." So I put in my order on the kiosk. The lady came out of the kitchen. You could tell they were working really hard, but she confirmed my order, and at the end of the day, I had very little guest interaction, and it did not live up to order here and it's going to be faster. So my point is that just because you have technology doesn't mean that it's going to deliver a great guest experience or make somebody feel better about their experience. So while the product 25 minutes later for one item was decent, I don't know if I would go back, because I know that I'm going to be waiting a long time. And
totally,
if you're in a full service, scenario, okay, I get it could be 25 minutes plus. But you know, for a walk up, fast casual, uh, yeah. So
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, when I think of like, especially like in store, like digital technology that's consumer facing, I always feel like it's a kind of fine line between the success of it and the failure, because I think especially in like FSR, QSR, like you're going in there, my dog's you go in there because you know what to expect, and like it's what you want now. And I feel like the replacing of staff, let's say the kiosks, for example, is certainly something that like I think some organizations have over-indexed on. And instead of say there are staff there, but there are no like hosts. So like people to guide that experience, especially for like a screen's not for everyone. To your point,
right.
you know what I mean? It's like, and I want one item. Like you've got a human over here that doesn't want to come over and help. And I think it stems a lot from like, you know, culture, like the leadership in that store, you know, like great GMs, you know, and we go back to passion, which you mentioned at the very beginning. You know, it's like, is there passion for people within the organization, within the four walls of that store, for example? And I think about that a lot because, you know, we hear things like, you know, AI drive-throughs now are becoming a thing. And it's like, okay, does that limit, like, what can we do with that person? I always think about like, what can we do with that person that would have been on the earpiece or whichever when you're doing the drive-through?
Mm-hmm.
If that's being replaced with an AI, where can we move that person? You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, what can we make them a host for the restaurant? Because I find like when I walk into like, you know, I'm driving from San Francisco to LA and I got to pull in somewhere and I go in and I'm like, okay, like it's a 7-hour drive. I might have to do 2 stops, you know, on that journey. And I'm like, if you're greeted by somebody when you come in because you're tired and you're like, you're hungry or whichever, it's like, you want that to nail it. But like people remember good experiences, but people definitely remember the negative experience. Like
100%.
You're relaying the story to me here. And it's actually like a simple, like challenge and opportunity for that business to fix, because it's like, you know, I think great hospitality is made of great people. Like the food is the food and you can improve it obviously, but like it's the human experience is what makes you remember the great time that you had in that place.
Absolutely. And that's why I say we have to be careful with tech and how it's being used, especially, you know, it's called hospitality for a reason. And I'm concerned that the industry is so focused on tech, robots, you know, the labor replacement opportunities that, you know, I feel like there's gonna be a larger disparity between the winners and the non-winners in our industry. And you know, the strong will survive. The brands and organizations that are focused on continuously focused on, you know, elevating their proposition. You know, we talk about value proposition a lot. And that's not just equating to menu prices, right? It's what are the other things and components that we can provide that make our guests feel like they're getting a great, not just a great dining experience, but a great value proposition within the experience. So
which I actually think is interesting, Kenny, because like, you know, we've seen such pressure on pricing, and you said earlier in the episode that like, you know, in 2023 we didn't do a menu price increase, and that seems to have been prevalent across like the entire industry in and of itself. And I guess you see like online now these almost like memes. I can't get like a Happy Meal for like $18 or something anymore. You know what I mean? And it's like people like the pricing. There is pricing sensitivity out there as well. And it's amazing that you're able to kind of keep your prices like as stable as possible. But people are you're like really leaning in then on top of that with sort of that like guest experience and like leaning into why they're coming here. Like the value prop is the why. And it seems to me, I mean, like it's like you're so positive about this winning that it's emanating into me here that like, yeah, it seems like that's working for you. Like you had a strong like 2023, it sounds to me.
It didn't start off strong, but it ended strong. And like I said, you know, we really focused on the vital few, if you will. And I think, going back to the team member experience, one of the first things that we did last year was focus on menu development. And I think there's a couple bullet points there that we really wanted to zero in on. One is menu rationalization. So we went from probably 25 plus menu items, and we brought it down to essentially a core 6 or 7 that we call our flagship items. We kind of changed it up a little bit. We have a different component in addition to our flagships called our Choose Your Voyage, and it allows our guests to kind of pick their protein. They can pick how they what vehicle they want to use that in, meaning they can get a bowl or a salad, sandwich or tacos, and then they pick their sauce. So it's either, it's about simplification. So have it your way, build it your own, or have one of our great, highly successful, great tasting flagship items. And, with that, it was twofold. One, we wanted to make it easier for our guests to understand seafood. I don't know about you, but I would say the average consumer is probably 50 to 60% knowledgeable on all the different fish that are out there, right? So it's really helping them understand what is seafood, keeping it simple. And then on the flip side, from a team member experience, we made it much easier for a cook to come in and be able to execute all of our menu items. In the past, if you've got to understand 25 plus menu items, plus sides, plus, the learning curve becomes a lot more challenging. And I believe, we believe it kind of opens you up for opportunities to not execute at a high level. So that, it's really coupling the team member experience with elevating the guest experience and providing a great value. Kind of segueing into, we talked a little bit about our loyalty program. We're trying to provide all our loyalty members some type of free giveaway, if you will, every month. So this past month, we celebrated National Fish Taco Day, right? So we gave all of our guests a free fish taco with a minimal purchase. And if you weren't a guest, this was our opportunity for our front line to really talk about it and say, hey, if you're not a loyalty member, you should sign up, and these are the benefits. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you a free fish taco today. So it accomplishes everything we wanted to do on that day. Deliver a great product, acquire a new guest. We know that loyalty members come in more often and spend more money. It's a fact. It's not just with our brand. That's a fact. So that's why you see different organizations focusing on that. Again, understanding the frequency, understanding, hey, how often is too often to ping one of your guests? I mean, I'm sure you get emails from different brands. It could
That's my job.
Well, I mean, it could be what's the right number though? Is it once a week? Is it every other week? Is it once a month? Where's the sweet spot? And so that's where, again,
I have an opinion on that.
I mean, I'm sure you do, but there's data out there that shows, is it too much? Is it just, I'm getting so many messages from you that I'm immune to it? Or is it, hey, I'm being really focused and sending intentional messages with specific reasons that you can be excited about to come visit us again? And that's kind of our philosophical approach on messaging the guest, whether it's whatever vehicle that we're using for any particular promotion. So,
I'll tell you some tricks and tips at the offline.
Absolutely.
There's a bunch of things that I do in that space that could probably be illuminating or helpful. I I guess, you know, like, I mean, look at the time. We've flown through this conversation. It's been like over 35 minutes. Yeah, can you believe it? I guess, Kenny, the last thing I always ask people, and I leave this very open-ended, is like, what advice would you give to somebody listening to this? This is a hospitality audience, obviously, but like, what advice would you give? Get on your soapbox.
How much more time do you have? I would say that you know, our business today is more challenging than ever, and I think I believe that the leaders that stay focused on the vital few are the teams that are going to continue to be successful and win in this crazy environment. So it's about being focused. It's about having the right approach and attitude with your business, with your team. And I think the last thing is I'm of lately been preaching have more patience and at the same time have less patience. So depending on the situation, you know, you may or may not have to be less patient or more patient, and how you apply that within your business, I think, is critical to continuing to move your brand and your business forward. So I'll leave it at that.
And you're an absolute gent. Kenny Hahn, thanks for coming on.